Hello there, so glad you could join me. Don't worry about leaving, I already locked the doors. And don't worry about calling for help. Ooh. Tell me, have you ever played the Kazuki Takahashi card game, Yu-Gi-Oh? Yu-Gi-Oh is currently printed in 15 languages. They sell it in over 80 countries. They say 6 million people have played Yu-Gi-Oh, but I'm guessing only a fraction understand how to play it. Now, have you played the mobile phone game Duel Links? 2016, the year Pokemon tricked us into touching grass, a monkey in Cincinnati shot a kid, or something, I wasn't really paying attention. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Still exists. In fact, it's doing pretty well. Its competitive scene is thriving, but the fundamentals of the game got a tad complex. And it's only going to get worse. The game became very combo-centered, and Konami just introduced pendulum monsters into the game. If you don't know what a pendulum monster is, it's the butt of every joke about Yu-Gi-Oh! Card layout, with Bible's worth of text, convoluted do-everything mechanics, and the growing evolution of the pendulum monster design began to upset players.
What is happening?
Frankly, the state of the game was a bit intimidating for new players, and old ones yearned for the simple times where you could just set 3 cards and pass. But what if the game wasn't so complicated? What if we could make Yu-Gi-Oh! Simple again? Enter stage left, Duel Links. A simple mobile game with a limited pick of old school Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Relive the days of old playground Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel and link with people. Duel and link with me right now! Duel Links was introduced as an accessible, casual way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! You'd start with half the life points, build smaller decks, play with simpler cards, and you'd also have access to the innovative mechanic to play as a character. When building your deck, you could decide what character you wanted to play as, and each character would have a unique skill that you could use in a match, further mimicking the playground Yu-Gi-Oh days where you would just make up a rule or effect on the spot because you weren't entirely sure how to play the game. Remember the days where when you saw it in the anime it was real, so you poured a bottle of water over your fish monsters to give them 1,000 attack points like in that one Destroy the Moon episode of Yu-Gi-Oh, but then you lose to a fake Spanish copy of Exodia with infinity attack anyway, and then you drowned your cards for no reason? Yeah, me neither. Please comment down below what your playground rules and stories were. I'd love to hear about it. This is what most people mean when they hear Yu-Gi-Oh! You have the nostalgia cards, everyone has their favourite, I shall not tell you mine. You have the vibrant spell and trap cards with varying types and effects, and of course, the fusion deck. Now this next part is very important. Have you ever played the 2019 game Speed Duel? 3 years later, with the success of Duel Links, Konami must have thought, hey, you know that Duel Links thing we made? Hey! What if that, but a physical card game? Hey! And so we got our first set of Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duel products. 2 starter decks, Destiny Masters and Duels of Tomorrow. Both had 3 decks themed around anime characters. Destiny Masters had Yu-Gi-Oh! Pegasus and Ishizu, and Duels of Tomorrow had Kaiba, Joey, and My Valentine. And along with the 3 decks, each deck had a set of 3 skill cards that you could use during or before a duel. Very similar to the character cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. In fact, it is nearly identical to the mobile game in every fundamental way. There's the smaller fields, there's the spell and traps, there's the skills, and there's the ultimate goal of reducing life points to 0. Now let's look at these games in parallel. Duel Links started out as a casual, simple Yu-Gi-Oh! Designed to nostalgia bait old players and invite new ones. Duel Links succeeded in many ways. The reduced card pool along with the character abilities led for some very interesting decks and strategies. Like Karate Man one-turn kill. You summon Karate Man, equip him with a heap of spell cards, Karate Man's effect doubles his attack, and you win in one hit. When I played the game, I built Des Frog one-turn kill. I refuse to elaborate because then that means more editing, and I'm lazy. It was fun, and the nostalgia did last. For about a year. Then Duel Links introduced Yu-Gi-Oh! GX cards, which, in fairness, are still nostalgic to some people, and more cards for the game isn't bad. They introduce a mix of old school favourites with some newer cards that fit the GX theme. Credit where credit is due, they introduced more cards in the game without completely disrupting power creep, and without overcomplicating the game's mechanics with things like Synchros and XYZ cards. And that lasted for about a year before they introduced Synchros, and then XYZ the following year, and then Pendulums, and then Links. You get the idea. Of course, with a game like this, you do have to introduce new cards into the pool that were A, good enough to excite players, and in Yu-Gi-Oh's case, weak enough to avoid Yu-Gi-Oh's years of power creep. So by the end of it all, was it well balanced? I don't really know. I dropped out because I got bored grinding for Chaz to make an Ojama VWXYZ Dragon Cannon deck, but I'm assuming power creep was unavoidable, and I did just watch some poor soul get locked out the game with a crystal wing, so... Duel Links started as nostalgia bait, but slowly turned into a diet postmodern Yu-Gi-Oh! In parallel, Speed Duel was released a little after the 5Ds patch in Duel Links, and it returned the game to its playground Yu-Gi-Oh! Days. Again. Except this time, Speed Duel tried its hardest to remain a casual format. No white cards, no black cards, no Bibles for mice, no blue pointy cards. Just cool skill cards and products that had multiple decks in it so you could introduce your friends to casual versions of the game. And at first, you didn't have to introduce heaps of cash into it. It presented itself more like a board game than a collectible card game. Hell, even in later sets, the rules introduced new ways to play the game, like Tag Team 2v2 or 4v all, just like in the Battle City anime. I really lucked out and I got an edition that introduced a new rule that I had to cut off my feet if I lost, just like in that one episode. I mean, it did mean having to buy the Home and Garden expansion pack from Home Depot, get admitted to hospital for excessive blood loss, but now I have a cool robot foot, so who's laughing now? Speed Duel was even a supported format at events. For the most part. Most of the products were really good too. Each set would come with a small pack of secret rare upgrades to bling out your favourite decks. Unlike the TCG, Speed Duel was inviting for seasoned players trying to enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! Like the good old days, and new players who might have seen a few Yu-Gi-Oh! Memes and thought, I summon Pot of Greed! This seems fun. It was almost the perfect way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Almost. It did have its own series of problems, such as the watermark situation. Every Speed Duel card had a Speed Duel watermark to confirm that it's Speed Duel legal, which honestly is a pretty good way to keep track of what's legal and what's not, but you weren't allowed to use Speed Duel-less cards in the Speed Duel game even if it's Speed Duel legal. I did say it presented itself more like a board game, but at the end of the day, it is a trading card game. So that meant they released packs to upgrade and build new decks, and these packs work the same way as any other packs do. You have commons, you have rares, you have foils, they're all a small pack of random cards, and all the best cards being foils, and therefore difficult to acquire. Now for a card game, there is nothing wrong with having rare cards, but it was simply off-putting to having to recollect old cards in the name of Speed Duel. Especially when the same card cost pennies in the TCG, but the same card with the Speed Duel watermark would cost you over $10. It was a rip-off. Players were being sold old cards at a premium cost. Eventually, Konami stopped releasing so many packs, mostly because no one was buying them. Konami would then just stick to releasing products similar to the first wave of pre-constructed decks, like the American Bakura deck, the Rex and Weevil set, and then you'd get larger ones like the Duel Academy box set, Battle City box, and the Duels of the Shadows. These products had 8 decks instead of the regular 2 to 3, which is good, and they also had the Rarity Bump pack to bling out your deck, which is also good. They had their mishap, and then they more than made up for it with better products. Obviously the Speed Duel packs were a terrible idea. I mean, if it was me who was making the products, I would just look at the list of cards in the pack, take one card from each, including the foils, put it in a pre-construct, sell it for like $7 or something. But this was good too. Eventually, the watermark situation kinda mellowed itself out, and no one really realised it. People are still a little bit upset about it, but everyone just plays with the cards that are in the box sets anyway. So it was a big controversy that, if you think about it, is actually a small controversy, and then it fixed itself with good products, and no one even really realised it. People who got into Speed Duel really enjoyed it. It was fun, it was casual, the games were quick. Which is strange when they stopped making Speed Duel cards. And there are the main formats of Yu-Gi-Oh! We have the physical card game, Master Duel, Duel Links, and Speed Duel. I call them the big... I haven't worked out a name on that yet. The card game, the original progenitor, Duel Links / Master Duel, the most popular, and of course we have Speed Duel, the modern spin on the original. Ultimately, a dead format. I will now make a very disturbing remark, and that's neither Konami nor the players want to play retro Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duel is dead, and we killed it. Kind of. I'm being a little bit facetious, just for the heretic bit.
Order! Excuse me.
But what actually killed Speed Duel? Well, it was a combination of things. For starters, while Speed Duel was getting competitive coverage, nobody really cared about it. People liked to play the game, but it was really boring to spectate. On top of that, Speed Duel events at locals was very hit or miss. Here in the UK, some smaller game shops would host Speed Duel events, but a lot of larger shops wouldn't bother. From what I understand, there was a similar situation in the States too. Even if events did take place, not a lot of people would attend. Second, let's talk about Duel Links again. Why would I drop $30 on a Speed Duel set when I have Duel Links on my phone for free? And there's only ever one answer to that question. Duel Links was cheaper, mostly, better supported, and could live on a device that everyone carries in their pocket. And also, it was probably cheaper to run for Konami and more profitable. Again, I can't prove that, so here's a silly GIF to prove my point. Thirdly, nostalgia and time itself. Nostalgia is a fickle thing, because what's warm and comfortable to one old person can be boring and lackluster to a younger iPad baby. That one doll that has not aged well that your granddad used to play with is boring to you, because you were raised on an Xbox One, and that Xbox is going to be dull and boring to your grandkids because they were raised on Neuralink Super Simulation Gaming and Robo Goon Butlers. Nostalgia moves with the generations, so those cool old school Yu-Gi-Oh formats you used to play ain't cool no more. They're dull, slow, and brain dead. The new cool is Edison format. 2010's Edison format is currently seen as the golden age of Yu-Gi-Oh! Synchro is running wild with lots of creative, undiscovered strategies. This is the new nostalgic. Players who couldn't afford to play competitively during this era got a chance to explore their nostalgia. Edison format has only gained more popularity over the last couple years. And much like back then, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was old and busted because Synchros and 5Ds was the new hotness. GOAT format was made popular again, old busted hotness. Now Edison has been revived, new old busted hotness. Less players don't remember the good old days of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they just don't care about the game anymore, or they died. And now the generational nostalgia is in 5Ds and Synchros. And Speed Duel wasn't catching up with evolving nostalgia. And fourthly, supply. Later products didn't come to Europe, Middle East or Africa. The box set was planned to be an American exclusive release. Now, there was a good reason for this. In the EU, Cartamundi Island Limited closed its doors for good due to COVID-19 pandemic causing a reduced demand for board games and the ever-increasing cost of materials and energy. This factory produced games like Cluedo, Risk, Trivial Pursuit, Monopoly, and of course, Speed Duel. As for why it wasn't released in the rest of the world, your guess is as good as mine. I'm just gonna say it's very classic Japanese behavior. And then in 2024, Konami announced on Twitter that this is going to be the last Speed Duel set. But I think there's a fighting hope. See, Konami never directly said they're cancelling Speed Duel, it's just taking a pause. And you know what? I believe this isn't the last we're going to see of Speed Duel. So where can Speed Duel go from here? Would it be a good idea to introduce Synchros into Speed Duel? No, absolutely not. That is going to be very greedy for Konami to capitalise on that. They should not lean into what the players have found and crafted for themselves to escape the corporate shite. It's the community's format, let's leave Edison with the community. Instead, they should lean further into GX and Duel Monsters, into the more unexplored faces of it, like Orichalco's Kyber Corp Grand Championships, the movies, Yu-Gi-Oh! R, GX manga, just to name a few.
Is that fucking Frieza?
Will there be power creep? A bit, but it's entirely impossible to bring balanced versions of these decks into Speed Duel. For example, you could make a power-boosted Guardians deck from Orichalcos, Valkyries from the KC Grand Championship, Pyramidal Light, Sphinx decks, Cubics and Malefics from the movies, the Wicked Gods from R, and, I don't know, just some weird GX cards from the manga. As for Duel Links, people will still play it forever because for everywhere that isn't Japan, it's the main way to play Rush Duel, which is fine. Personally, I'm hopeful that Speed Duel will make a big recovery and it will return stronger than before. And if you enjoy Speed Duel, you should too. And that was Speed Duel Links. Please subscribe for more content, comment what you think about anything that was said, or comment something that wasn't said, or comment something that's never been said before by anyone else ever. Now get out of my house and mind the cross in the road on the way out.